when you've worked with somebody for a really long time, at some point you should assess them. I've done that and I've not done that. There's times where I should have done it earlier and I didn't, but I do think that it's important to have a network of subs on the back burner that you can keep your subs honest with, or just gauge what they're doing. Is it the market rate? What's the going rate? What's up, everyone? Oh, wait. Something's up with my audio. Hold on. Ah, the cleaning people were here. Wait. Yep, there it is. Better. They touched my equipment. Um, I've been telling my wife, and this is so we have people who come and clean the house, and my wife organizes the entire house the night before, the day of. I literally do nothing but somewhat tidy up my office space, which also houses the podcast studio, the world headquarters, Modern Craftsman, midweek world headquarters. Also keeps all my dirt bike gear, washer, dryer, powder room. This is a big world headquarters. Um, what else? Oh yeah, like stuff that I bring in for work that I need to bring back out. So there's generally paint, adhesives, stuff that I don't feel like bringing down to the basement. Um, but she schedules the cleaners and she's been scheduling them every day for Tuesday morning, which is when I do my podcast prep and begin my podcast prep. But I think this is the last Tuesday that they're coming and we're going to schedule it for a different day, which will make my life a little bit easier. So I appreciate my wife doing all of that. But get the dang cleaners out of here on Tuesdays. If you guys can't tell, I am sick right now. The frigging kids. I feel every year this week, the kids get me sick. So I have a terrible cold. I was super fuzzy headed today, trying to work on podcast prep midweek, and I couldn't get it together. I got up and went for a run, which was marginal at best. I mean, it felt decent. I just don't feel good. So the pace was slow, and I guess I zoned out for a little bit, which was good. I've definitely felt better after the run, but I don't feel good. I'm supposed to have a dirt bike race this weekend. See how I feel, see how the weather is. I'm at the point now where if it's raining and bad weather and I don't feel well, I don't know if it's worth racing, pushing myself and getting hurt. So we'll see how that goes. Playing it by ear right now. Um, what else do I have to complain about? There's got to be something. Doug's coming down tomorrow. We're to film some content for Great Stuff Foam. So I'm excited about that. Get to hang out all day with Doug tomorrow. He's flying in, picking him right up from the airport, driving to the job, going to film all day, and then he's flying home tomorrow night. So busy week, a lot going on the job. Drywall finished up. I had to get them back up to do touch up after they primed. I was not super happy with everything, so another trip or two, touch up, sanding, more priming. Bumped floors because of that while I have them in and out. The roof started getting ripped off, the siding's getting ripped off. Started reinstalling the roof. Bit of rain this week, so doing the roof in portions to scoot around the weather. What else is going on? Oh, so ran into the sunroom. So they're on our project. This addition that I ripped the back off was a sunroom. Um, there was leaks in the fiberglass roof deck above. Um, a ton of flashing issues. The gutter wasn't installed correctly. Long story short, there was rain getting behind the stucco behind the flashings, the windows causing rot. We pulled all that away, reframed it, put a new course of block foundation in, got rid of the brick wall, the like little brick half wall that they had just built a wall on top of that wasn't structural. Um, and we had the wall open for however long. There was no water coming in, no sort of issues. And we went to pull all the floor protection yesterday and realized that I I know when I looked at this project 9 months ago with the stucco contractor, we said, "Hey, you have irrigation directly up against your house." You could see how it stained all the stucco, and we are like, "Really need to get that removed." You don't want water just blowing up against your house like that. Um, it had never gotten removed. It had never been turned off. And when we pulled all the floor protection yesterday, which we've had down since we started the job, so there's some plastic and masonite. Um, I like really looked at the floor in this one area because it was added. It was higher than the other floor. It was just supposed to get refinished. It was oak, but it was done at a separate time than the rest of the floor. A bunch of weird transitions. And we started moving around on it and realized it was just like there was a lot of give in the floor, and it's on a concrete slab. Um, so I got a hold of the floor contractor. I was like, "There's no way to fix this," because there had been a leak. So there was one area where it was loose and bowed, and then out near the wall, which was covered by some weird like wainscoting that was covering the foundation wall before it bumped out, and we ripped all of that out. Um, it it was bowed like where you stepped on it, it would move up and down. So after talking to this floor sub, there's no salvaging it. So we ripped that up. One thing leads to another. Find out that it's just installed over like 3/8 plywood that's not really attached to anything. They had some weird furring strip sleepers that they had like tacked down, and then the subfloor was put in with a couple of inch and a quarter screws glued down to like self leveler that was completely blown apart from all the staples going through it. And then they had floor heat that was just pierced with all the staples as well. So you ended up having to call an audible, rip out all the subflooring, all the flooring, and it turns out that the irrigation against the house, and I guess the water getting below um, the stucco basically had wicked its way in, used to be through the brick wall, now through the small brick wall, the foundation, and the block into the slab, and was just like the whole slab has been wet under the subfloor and the wood for years. You could tell everything was completely rotted underneath of it. So I guess it's good that we uncovered that problem, and a bunch of mold and rot, but we're ready for the floor sub to come today. And I'm now ripping out floor down to concrete and grinding concrete and chiseling concrete. So a step back, bump the floor guy till Thursday. He's going to come. We'll figure out, get a moisture meter on that. I have air scrubber or air movers in there right now, hopefully drying things out. Went back and waterproofed any part of the foundation that I could that was not decorative to try and keep as much water out as possible long term, even for when they stucco. They'll attach their wire lath to that, but just really like stucco is not waterproof. So if water's getting in there, I don't want it wicking through the foundation that's above grade and going into the slab. Um, Obviously gutters and all that are help, but I waterproofed all that with liquid flashing just to hope to keep as much water out of there as possible, with the hopes that we can put a hardwood glue down possibly on that to match, because the rest of the first floor is all going to be oak. If not, maybe tile or something. I'm going to have that conversation with the designer, but I'm going to wait to speak to the floor sub before we make a decision. But on to the blog post podcast. Again, excuse me. I feel terrible today. Terrible cold. Dang kids got me sick again. But let's get moving on to this podcast. Down to business. I've had a handful of consulting calls recently, I guess since I posted. For some reason with Square, I don't know why, it used to hook up to my Instagram where you could just book on my Instagram for an hour of consulting, but I go through Instagram, I've reset my phone, I've reset Instagram, I've reset Square, logged in and out. it doesn't hook up to my Instagram anymore. It says that it is. It says that it does. It says now your icon's on Instagram. It's not. So I got tired of dealing with that. So essentially, what I'm doing now, if you want to book a consulting call, which I've had 3 this past week, which have all been great. Everyone's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed them. So thanks to everyone. This week I spoke with Kevin and I spoke with Edgar. Both great guys. Great conversation. I had a good time talking to them. Shoot me an email, and I'm essentially just setting up a time and a day that works via email and then sending a calendar request and an invoice directly through Square to book. So you can't do it through my Instagram anymore. It's directly through email, which is Tyler at trghomeconcepts.com. Little more confusing, little more work, but Square, you're a pain in my ass not working through Instagram, and I'm tired of trying to set you up through Instagram. So maybe I should just not do it through Square anymore, but I have so much time invested into that. So button's not on there. So do it through my email, Tyler at trghomeconcepts.com. All right, on to business. So my current project, I've used a bunch of subs. I will continue to use a bunch of subs moving forward. I enjoy remaining lean. I enjoy the way that my business is operating. I don't have a ton of mouths to feed. I can keep my subs consistently busy with the amount of work I have. I I'm getting paid to manage them. It's just working out well for me, so I'm going to continue down that route. But I want to ensure that everyone understands that when you're working with these subs, and this is something that I had let go for a while, is that you have to continue to ensure that you're keeping your subs honest, not only for yourself, but for your customers. And what I mean by that, um, so I don't do a ton of sub work. I do more now than I ever have before. There's obviously the sub trades that legally I'm required to sub out, the plumbing, electrical, I sub out HVAC. Um, but I started, oh, excuse me, this is me being sick. So I started subbing out sub trades that I didn't typically sub out before. I'm subbing out insulation, drywall, demo, all my exterior work, roofing, siding. So I'm using subs that I've used for years and some that are newer subs to me. But the subs that I've used for years, there's certain subs that I trust and I understand their business setup and it hasn't changed. Like my plumber, for example, he's worked for me for years. He works by himself. He works with his daughter sometimes. He has a helper, but his business setup is the same. His pricing, maybe it changes a little, but not that much. I know where his numbers are going to be. They're consistent. I understand he's very honest. He enjoys working for me. We have a very good relationship, a good working relationship. A lot of times it's like, hey, Bob, what do you think for this job? Yeah, it's going to be around here. And then he comes in, or sometimes he'll tell me, he'd be like, listen, I have a number in mind for this project, but I'm not going to tell you what it is after I already budgeted for it. Like I'll just bring him onto a job that I threw a number on for him. Be like, all right, Bob, get it done. Um, and he'll be like, I have a number in mind for this job, but I'm going to see if I can beat it. And I'm like, Bob, I don't really want you to beat the number for the job. Like if it ends up costing you less, as long as it's a fair price, um, you're a good sub for me. You're not overly expensive. You're fair. Make what you want to make. But that's Bob. And Bob has always been like that. He's an older guy, but he's great. I love him. Does amazing work, clean work, professional. Always gets to me when he says he's going to get to me. But then I have other subs that are newer subs, and then I have subs that have changed. My electrician, for example, used to be more belt on. He's more managing now, so he's brought in more guys. He has guys in vans. The structure of his business has changed, so his pricing has changed. So I need to ensure that while the pricing's changed, that it's still in line with the quality of work that I'm getting and that I'm still bringing value to my customers, right? If I don't have my main electrician on the job and he has helpers and it's costing me more money, Is that just a reflection of the business changing? Is there still value there? Is the work still done at a level that's satisfactory to me? Or does it make sense to go look at another electrician that's performing the work at the same level for less money for my customers? Um, or somebody who's charging maybe more money, but more hands on, more involved, the communication's better. This is not a knock at my electrician. This is just things that as a business owner and as a GC, somebody who's using subs as their labor pool, I need to consider. Um, there's also the consideration of loyalty, right? Just because my electrician's gotten older and he needs to change the setup and the operation of his business, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden I'm be like, well, you don't work for me anymore, new guy. Like, I'm going to give you an opportunity. Like, I would love, ideally, we continue to work together for as long as possible. But if at some point it doesn't suit me and it doesn't suit my customers, I understand why. And I'm going to look at different options. Um, so there's all different reasons for ensuring that your subs and what they're doing are being fair and being honest. It may not be that they're just looking to price gouge you. It may be that they're structuring their business differently, that they've grown, that they're doing spending more money on marketing or advertising, or they're doing work for bigger contractors with bigger budgets that's taking more of their time. So for them to pull off those jobs and come help me, they're charging me a higher rate because it's a nuisance. So there's all these things to consider, that when you've worked with somebody for a really long time, at some point you should assess them. And I've done that and I've not done that. There's times where I should have done it earlier and I didn't. Um, and there's not necessarily a right or wrong, but I do think that it's important to have a network of subs on the back burner, and people that you can keep your subs honest with, or just gauge what they're doing. Is it the market rate? What's the going rate? Are they charging more with their new structure? Are they undervaluing themselves and they're spread so thin because everyone wants to use them, and they should be charging more and being able to devote more time to your job and getting it done the way that you want. So there's a ton of considerations. It's not just that they're more expensive. Um, Seeing how they schedule their jobs, how they line up, what their turnaround time is. Does everyone take 3 days to respond to a text message? Maybe not. Is there somebody who's more money, who's more receptive, or has an office staff that schedules um, all of the appointments or jobs so that you're not depending on somebody to get back to you with the text 3 days later? Oh, excuse me. Oh, this is terrible, yawning in the middle of a podcast. I'm so sorry, but I honestly, I'm not feeling too hot, but I'm here. Um, so there's all these things to consider to make sure that who you're using is the best fit for you, is the best fit for your customers. Um, so I don't think that it's wrong to go out and, if you have a sub that you've used forever, to check them. Like, bring in somebody else. Like, I'm not the type of contractor that has 5 different subs that I use for one trade. There's a couple of trades that I have multiple, depending, like for hardwood floors, I have multiple subs depending on the level of work that's being done, the turnaround, the price point, who I'm working for. Um, it all depends on the job, and then I'm fitting the contractor to that job. But for a lot of my jobs, I use the same subs over and over again. It's a non-negotiable. But I want to ensure that that sub is honest, fair, and that their structure and their system and pricing is in line with what I want to offer my business and my customers. So I need to ensure, I need something to back up against. So I'm always speaking with other subcontractors. Hey, I use somebody right now, but if I like, at some point I might have an opportunity to work with you if you'd be interested. Yeah, here's my information. Let me know if you ever need help. And this is has nothing to do with loyalty. This has nothing to do with me not being happy with my subs right now. But if I depend on my subs and somebody gets sick, or they can't work for me anymore, or something happened and they can't turn around, that, like, I need other subs that I can rely on even if I've never relied on them before. It's just it's smart. It behooves me to do so. Um, so you need to ensure that you have people on the back burner. That there's other options out there than the pool that you're using at this time. There's subs that I like. I don't ever want to get rid of my plumber. I love Bob. He's great. He really is. Him and John, my wallpaper sub, are my favorite subcontractors. Two completely different people, completely different businesses, completely different operations, but I love them both. Um, they're just both neat. They're meticulous. They are concerned with quality. Their pricing is in line with what I want to be paying and what my customers are willing to pay. They fit the bill. I don't have to babysit them. They are respectful. They're polite, courteous, kind. They can speak with customer. Just everything about them is great. I don't want to replace them, but that would still be foolish of me to not have somebody that I could turn to or to consider other plumbers for the time when Bob cannot get to me. Um, so this has nothing to do with loyalty. It's just it's having another option. So part of having another option is ensuring again that your pricing is in check. So if it's once a year, maybe you touch base with another sub that you've wanted to work with and say, "Hey, listen, I already have this sub, but Um, if at some point I have a job coming up that you were interested in looking at getting me numbers, I wouldn't mind entertaining possibly trying another sub. Um, that doesn't mean that they have to be my go-to, but maybe they offer something that I'm unaware of. And this to me is an evolution. It may work out, it may stick, it may not, but to continue along the same line with a sub that is good. You know, they're getting the job done, but they're not Bob, they're not John, where I just it, they could charge me more money and I would still continue to use them. Hopefully they're not listening to this. But if there's a sub that has just been good for you, or maybe they haven't been quite as good for you, why not check them? If you feel that their numbers are creeping up and there's not a ton of value there for your customers, right? Say that they grew and they have a higher overhead, or they're subbing more work out um to people who aren't under their own umbrella, right? So I mean, a lot of companies do that. Hardwood floor refinishers do that. Siding companies, roofing companies, right? They land the work and then they sub it out to somebody else. Um, so sometimes there's a cost associated with that. One company's bigger, they run all the marketing, they cover a lot of the overhead, and they sub to other people. So you're paying a markup almost twice, where you could find somebody who's smaller, owns the labor in house, which is somewhat similar to I do. The owner's there, and maybe the pricing is more competitive, but the quality of work is better. The hands on aspect is better. Um, so that's something to consider with this, to check your subs to make sure that their pricing is right. Um, my current job now, we're way over budget. There's just been so many unforeseens. I'm sure all of you are aware of that. And there's subs that are already on the job, and then there's subs moving forward where it's like, hey, we're adding a bunch of scope to this, like the roof work, for example. And I have a roofer that I've worked with for years, and I love him. I personally, I like him a lot, but we're way over budget right now, and numbers started coming in higher than I anticipated them coming in. And it seemed to me as though, hey, we're locked in here. There's no choice. Let's just like get this job. Let's bang this one. And it's like there's no choice. We have to fix this. And while I understand that, my customers have a lot going on. There's a lot going on for me. If we can save some money and get a comparable product, I'm willing to possibly entertain a different subcontractor. Um, whether the customer referred them to me, whether it's somebody their parents referred them to me, whether it's somebody in the neighborhood, whether it's a lead from another contractor, right? If I'm in the position where it's like we're over $100,000 over budget easily. I mean, we're definitely more than that. Um, and there's an opportunity to get the work done by a different contractor to the same level, if not higher, for less money. Um, it's my responsibility as a GC who's managing schedule and budget to weigh the impact of that decision and then present that to my customers, right? So I have my main roofer and another roofer that was put on my plate. And the second roofer, smaller company, lower overhead, owns their labor, was considerably less, and the scope was the same, if not better, and they could handle the entire job, right? They could handle the main roof, the gutters, the trim work, the siding, the waterproofing, and the fiberglass roof. So it was a one-stop shop, and um, it was considerably less money. So in the situation that I'm in, although I have loyalty to my existing roofer, he looked at this job. Um, I had to tell them, hey, we're going with a different roofer that was recommended to us from this job. His pricing was considerably less, and ask them like, what would you attribute this to? The scope appears to be the same. The quality of materials is the same, if not higher with the newer guy. Um, what would you chalk this up to overhead? What would it be? And we had to have a conversation. And I don't think that he was happy. I know that he wasn't happy, but in this situation, with everything that's going on, it made sense to me to entertain the roofer that was put in front of me and give them an opportunity and give myself an opportunity to help my customers. And it's not, I'm not talking about $2,000 here. It was a considerable number where it's like, hey, this is going to impact the budget, and this is um a, an opportunity that I really think it makes sense. And it sucks at the same time because now I'm changing what I do and bringing in somebody that I don't usually use, and and I don't want to say like getting rid of somebody that I've used for a long time, but I'm giving an opportunity to somebody else where there's no loyalty, and there's been loyalty there before. But when the numbers look like they look and it's large enough to consider that, I have to consider that. And maybe I shoot myself in the foot for this, but with what's going on with this project, it was worth it to me. So far, so good. Um, Everything's moving ahead with the second contractor, and things are looking good there. Everything's been professional. Everything has been on the up and up, and I'm hoping it doesn't come back to bite us. But I did my due diligence, um, and it made sense for this one. So it was a little bit of a reminder that I need to ensure that all of my subs are being fair, that all of my subs are being checked, that I'm paying market rate. If I'm paying above market rate, that it's justified in value. If I'm paying below market rate, does it make sense to go above market rate and bring somebody in who can offer more? There's a ton of considerations, but I do feel when you've used the same companies for so long that it does make sense at some point to make sure that everything is on the up and up and that nobody's taking advantage of a situation. And I'm not implicating or insinuating that anyone is doing that, but it's just important to note, especially with people who do this a little bit more, sub out more work than I do. Everyone's busy right now. Everyone's charging a premium. Everyone's throwing out big numbers and seeing if they stick because there's a lot going on. And for you, for your business, for your customers, it makes sense to double down and check that everything's on the up and up, and that not everything's on the up and up, but that you're bringing them the value, and that you're not overpaying for a service, that you could then take that money and put it towards other ends of the or other areas of the budget. um, but again, there's many considerations there, whether it's loyalty, whether it's quality, execution, the size of the company, right? A bigger company is going to have a higher overhead, and they may be able to turn the job over to you quicker. They may have resources that the smaller company doesn't have, but also sometimes there's a disconnect there because you don't get the same person at the job every time. The communication is a little less, because you're not talking to the same PM or the same super or the same um, foreman on the job every time. So there's pros and cons to both. You have to figure out what works for you, but that doesn't mean that it's going to work on every job. So make sure that you always have some subs in your back pocket, that you make sure that everyone is in line with what you're offering and providing the value that you see fit. Um, and also to have conversations and just be open and honest with them. If you're not going to use them, or you're not going to use your sub that you have loyalty with on a job, make sure that you tell them. Don't just leave them hanging because they did spend time coming out looking at the project, and that's their time, and a lot of times they're not getting paid for that. So just make sure that you are being open and honest and transparent with them. If you're bringing a new sub out that you're not sure if you want to use, but you want to check pricing and see if there's an opportunity, just tell them. Like, be honest. Say, hey, I already have this tile setter, and I've been pretty happy with him, but there may be an opportunity to try somebody new. If you want to come look at a job and get us some numbers and look at it and tell us what you think, don't just tell them, hey, I want you to come look at a job. This job is yours. Or hey, come get me a price on this. Like, just don't waste their time. Tell them what's going on. They may be busy. They may already have enough contractors or customers they work for, and they don't want to just come look at a job. So you're going to be saving yourself some time as well as them. But be honest with them. Be honest with your existing subs and your potentially new subs. But this job has been a reminder and a reiteration for me to make sure that I'm providing the most value that I can to my customers, especially when we're behind schedule and over budget, and value engineering and offering options other than our standard. Right, this is what we do, and dig our heels in and say we won't do anything else, because in the situation that you're in, nobody knew that this was going to happen. So being able to adapt, um, and evolve and morph some to budget, to schedule, to the existing conditions, and maybe letting go of not necessarily your standard, but your system, to help them out, may prove to be very a very wise decision for yourself long term, whether it be with subs or with the customers who can appreciate that. So that's my word of advice for this week. Keep people in your back pocket. Make sure that everyone's pricing is in line with the services that they are offering. um, Keep tabs on your subs. Keep tabs on the people who are working under your umbrella and a part of your process and a part of your product. Again, thanks as always for listening. Um, if you want to book a one-on-one consult with me, shoot me an email, Tyler at trghomeconcepts.com, and we can set up a day and a time that works for you. Hop on the phone for an hour, sort out anything that you want that I would have some insight to. um, I have enjoyed it, but I am having trouble with the Square app on my phone with Instagram, so I'm taking it to the side, going rogue, and just running it through Square manually. But I also need some more listener questions. I still have a handful on my phone, but I'm working at that list. But I'm always open to taking um, more questions from you guys and girls. I love being able to dig into them and create a blog post or a podcast around that. The other thing is to hop on www.moderncraftsman.co and check out the Founders shirt. um, we have a limited run of them, and it's all pre-order, but the shirts are super nice. I know a bunch of you have already ordered, so thank you very much. I'm excited to see what you guys and girls think when you get your hands on them. Hey, buy them as a gift to somebody. What holidays are coming up? Back to school. That's a holiday, right? Buy them for your wife or husband for the kids going back to school. Um, no, check them out. www.moderncraftsman.co. There's a link on there for the pre-order. They're a nicer shirt. They're not like a throwaway shirt. So they're not the least expensive t-shirt that you can buy. They're not the most expensive t-shirt that you can buy, but they're made well. It's a nice quality product. They're made by a small little boutique screen printing shop too that's handling all of them. We felt it was more in line with what we stand for and what we are trying to do with the Modern Craftsman. So check them out, get one ordered, order a few, order them for your friends, book an online consulting call. Keep tuning back to the regular Modern Craftsman podcast with Nick Schiffer that's produced by Doug Duvall, Motif Media. And midweek Modern Craftsman. Hop on iTunes, hop on any other platform, leave us a review. We appreciate it. It helps us out a lot and allows us to continue to bring this podcast to you virtually uninterrupted and free of charge. Also, as always, thanks to the sponsors, Anderson Builder Trend, two great companies who have always supported us and continue to support us. So thank you guys so much for everything that you do. Without you, we would be paying a lot more money for this podcast than we do. So you guys are help footing part of that cost. So our listeners should thank them and endorse them as well. All right, guys. I'm unsure if I'll be on here next week. Maybe taking a little bit of time off with the family. TBD. So if you don't see me next week or you don't hear me next week, it might be the week after. So I'll see what I can do before then if I can get something else up and going. No promises yet. Maybe I'll see you next week. Maybe I won't. If not, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again. Bye bye.